Hey everyone, the other day I posted a video about Beth Moore's decision, a very public decision to step away from the Southern Baptist Convention. And my ultimate point in that video was simply what Beth Moore does is between her family, and God, as is the case with any of us. I simply, I always regret when relationships break apart. There's always a sadness there. And I also, in our day and age of cancel culture, this idea there's differences of people are just going to walk away from each other. I just don't like that. Or to deplatform and cancel people and break relationships and stuff. I think we need more dialogue and more engagement, not less. And so I always hate to see high-profile splits like this. There's a sadness about it for me. But the main thing I emphasized was that I would hate for people to too quickly believe in and embrace the narrative that seems to be developing from Beth Moore's departure, which is that the Southern Baptist Convention is racist and sexist, and therefore she felt no longer welcome and was essentially driven out. That's almost the narrative that a lot of people are really taking away from this. And the point I made in the previous video was that that's not the Southern Baptist Convention that I know. Well, a couple comments, almost all the comments that I've received on that video and on the blog post I put it at my blog, pastorbriantubbs.com, have been positive, and I appreciate that, and I thank you for it. But I do appreciate also the constructive criticism. I do. Negative comments can actually sometimes be more helpful than positive ones, and so I think I want to thank everyone who took the time to comment. One of the commenters, kind of sarcastically, was asking, well, don't you remember how the Southern Baptist Convention was founded? And of course, the answer is, well, I don't personally remember, but I've studied it, and yes, I'm well aware of the SBC's sad history. And so, for those of you that may not be aware, the Southern Baptist Convention was founded in racism. No question about that. The Southern Baptist Convention was founded in 1845, and it was in response to the fact that that at that time the Baptist community in the United States was turning more and more against slavery, and that really had begun. The turning of American public opinion against slavery really began in the founding era, with a lot of our founding fathers leading the way in that. But that's something that you're not told in the narrative today. We're made to believe that the founding fathers were all pro-slavery, and that's just not the case. And anyone who takes the time to actually study history has come to that realization. That, by the way, includes Frederick Douglass, who began his anti-slavery history condemning the founding fathers, but then actually studied and read up on them and realized that he was mistaken about their intentions and what they were trying to do, and he became a lot more favorable toward them. In fact, if you read his famous 4th of July speech, which is a brilliant speech, he actually praises the founding fathers. Again, that's something you don't hear very often. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. The fact is that the opinions, the public opinion was turning against slavery, starting in the American founding era, and certainly continuing through the Second Great Awakening and into the early 1800s, and that was setting up the American Civil War. And so the the Baptists split over the issue of slavery, and the specific point of that led to the separation was over whether or not the Baptists should endorse missionaries who were going overseas who held enslaved persons against their will, and if a missionary participated in the institution of slavery, they should not be endorsed. I personally think that was the right call. I agree with the Northern Baptists historically on that point, but the Southern Baptists did not, and so the denomination split. And the Southern Baptist Convention was formed, and there we are. Well, sadly, the Southern Baptist Convention history does affect the present. There's no question about that. And the Southern Baptist Convention continued in a racist trajectory for many years, and a majority of the Southern Baptists were supporters of the Confederacy. And one of the things that I would encourage my fellow Christians today is we've got to stop. There's a lot of my fellow Christians who live in America, who are in the American South, kind of hold hold the Confederacy in high esteem. You got to stop that, okay? If you read Alexander Stephens, who's the Vice President of the Confederacy, if you read his cornerstone speech, his cornerstone address, in which he articulates the cause of the Confederate States of America, there's no way that any Christian of good conscience can possibly stand behind the words of that speech. So we need to condemn that for what it is. And so anyway, but sadly, many Southern Baptists did stand behind the Confederacy during those years, and by all accounts, most of them did. And so it was tragic. Not all, I should say. There were some Southern Baptists who were opposed to slavery. I'm not tarnishing them all, but a majority of them did support slavery. And sadly, a majority of Southern Baptists then later on supported segregation. And so you had many people, including many people who identified as Southern Baptist, committing egregious acts against men and women of color in our country, and not just in the South, but even in the North and stuff. And so racism, sadly, has been a part of Southern Baptist history, just as it's been a part of American history, just as, frankly, racism has played out in different ways in most cultures of the world, but certainly it has played out in Southern Baptist history, and that's not something that we should be proud about or happy about, and it's not something we should deny. So the question that I would have for you is, and it's an honest question, and those of you, if you have in your heart this idea that okay, the Southern Baptist Convention was founded on slavery and racism, and that racism, whether it was in favor of slavery or okay with slavery or in favor of segregation or okay with segregation, either of any of those manifestations, if racism was a part of its heritage and was a part of most of its history, quantitatively speaking, then does that mean that racism is still a part of the Southern Baptist Convention today? And I would say that if you're asking, are there racists in the Southern Baptist Convention? The answer is yes. You have 14 million people who are associated with the Southern Baptist Convention. So of those 14 million people, are some of those people racist? Yes. There are racists in America today. There are racists in just about every group or community you can think of. Racism is sadly still around, and so is it still contaminating the Christian community and the Baptist community in particular? Yes, it is. Does that mean that the Southern Baptist Convention, organizationally, officially, by majority, is itself still racist or is endorsing racism? And I would say the answer to that is no. Most of the Southern Baptists that I know have taken strong positions for racial equality and for civil rights, and you just look at some of the Southern Baptist leaders over the last few years and some of the things that they've endorsed and some of the things that they've said. This is a denomination that has actually, in many respects, right now you'll find that the debate over race-related issues, while it's very tense, it can be very tense. It's almost more of an issue of how to deal with racism as opposed to whether we should deal with it or which side we should be on, so to speak. So it's the Southern Baptist Convention. I think if there was you took some kind of vote or something and put everyone on a lie detector test, are you a racist? The vast majority of people in the Southern Baptist Convention would say absolutely not. Do you believe in racial equality? Yes, we do. But are there still problems? Is there still progress to be made? Yes, of course. So that I'm not unaware of the SBC's history. I would just simply humbly ask that we focus forward on the progress that we're trying to make, that all of us are trying to make. We all have to run the race that God has set before us. And so I think ultimately we have to all focus on the race that God has for us, as individuals. And, rather than try to focus on our judgment on other people and other denominations and other organizations out there, and then kind of pat ourselves on the back and feel good about condemning other people or criticizing other people, let's make sure we clean up our own room and make sure that we are working on our own race and our own walk before the Lord. So that's my only encouragement to you. So, yes, as God gives you the light to see problems in front of you, address them. And I hope I can do the same and will do the same. And I hope that, we can help each other on that. But that's the point. Let's help each other and give each other the benefit of the doubt as we do so. Let's be humble and let's walk together before God, as it says in Micah 6:8, that we need to do justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with our God. God bless you. Take care.